The night was colder than expected for late October. Leaves rustled like whispers across the empty roadside as the van pulled up to the rusted gates of Wonderland Fun Park. Fog clung to the ground in thick sheets, giving the appearance of smoke rising from the earth itself. Mia sat behind the wheel, her hands still gripping it long after the engine had stopped. She stared through the cracked windshield, her eyes locked on the half-lit sign that hung crooked above the entrance's once colorful letters, now faded and decayed. "Wonderland," she whispered. "Still gives me chills." In the back, Jordan looked up from his camera gear. "You sure this is the place? Looks more like a junkyard than a cursed amusement park." Donnie leaned forward from the middle seat. "The GPS brought us here, and the coordinates match. Look." She pulled out a worn notebook, flipping to a page with a hand-drawn map. In the margins, someone had scribbled, "Don't ride the carousel." Troy, already halfway out the door, let out a low whistle. "Oh, man, this place is a goldmine. Wait till the followers see this. 1 million views, easy." They stepped out into the night, their boots crunching on broken glass and gravel. The air smelled of damp wood, rust, and something faintly sweet like rotting candy. Jordan turned. On the camera, its red light blinked to life. "This is Jordan Masters with Midnight Haunts. And tonight, we're at the infamous Wonderland Fun Park. Closed since 1989 after a string of mysterious deaths and disappearances." The park was abandoned. Overnight, no one ever reopened it. Locals say it's cursed. We're here to find out why. The gates creaked open with a push. Beyond them, the park spread out like a forgotten painting. Tilted rides, broken booths, tattered banners flapping in the wind. They moved as a group down the main path, flashlights. Slicing through the dark, the old ticket booth stood just ahead, its window shattered. On the counter sat a dusty roll of tickets, one fluttering as if a breeze had passed, though none of them felt it. Creepy Mia muttered. "I love it." Troy grinned, hopping over the counter. He grabbed a ticket and held it up. "Who wants a ride?" Donnie didn't laugh. She was staring at something behind the booth, a small faded photograph stapled. To the wall, a girl in pigtails holding cotton candy. Her face was scratched out, she pointed. "This photo wasn't in the archives. I went through every article, every file. So," Jordan shrugged. "So someone's been here," she replied, "recently." As they walked deeper into the park, the night grew unnaturally quiet. Even the wind seemed to stop. The air thickened, each breath slightly harder to take. They passed the bumper cars, now just metal husks, half swallowed by weeds. The funhouse loomed to their left, its painted clown face faded and peeling, mouth frozen in a grin that stretched too wide. "Let's start there," Jordan said. "It's got great atmosphere." "No," Donnie said quickly. "Not yet. Let's get a lay of the land first." They moved on, arriving at the carousel. It stood oddly pristine. Unlike the rest of the park, it seemed untouched by time. The paint was vibrant. The horses gleamed. The lights twinkled faintly, as if waiting to come back to life. Troy took a step toward it. "Guys, this thing is beautiful." Mia grabbed his arm. "No. Didn't you read the note?" He rolled his eyes. "You really believe that junk?" Jordan focused the camera on the carousel. "It's in too good condition. Feels staged." "Maybe it's bait," Donnie said. A flicker of motion passed through the horses. They all twitched just slightly. Enough that Mia saw it. She stepped back. "I don't like this place." "Good," Jordan replied. "That means it's working." They set up camp near the old snack court. Most of the booths were collapsed, but one table remained intact. They dropped their gear and started assembling their plan. Donnie unfolded her map. The haunted house is on the far end. Ferris wheel behind it. Mirror maze across from us. Puppet theater near the kiddie rides. Troy scanned the area. We split into two groups. Mia and I will go check out the haunted house. Jordan and Donnie take the maze. Jordan protested. Why do you get the haunted house? Because it's the most dangerous. Troy winked. Mia didn't like the idea, but agreed. She needed to keep Troy from doing something stupid. The two pairs separated, disappearing into the park's dark veins. The camera followed Jordan and Donnie into the mirror maze, their flashlight beams refracted across dozens of mirrored surfaces. Their reflections multiplied endlessly. Jordan walked slowly, filming. This was the site of the first death. A boy in 1986 wandered in and never came out. They found his shoes, nothing else. Donnie touched the mirror. It was cold, too cold. Suddenly, one of the reflections blinked out of sync. "Did you see that?" she whispered. Jordan swung the light around. Nothing. Just their faces, twisted slightly by the warped glass. Meanwhile, Mia and Troy crept through the haunted house. The animatronics were broken, slumped over in their positions. A clown's arm twitched randomly. "Battery glitch," Troy said, though the ride had no power. They reached the final hallway, lined with doors painted with blood-red numbers. Troy tried one, locked, another, jammed. The third swung open. Inside was a room lit by a single flickering bulb. On the floor was a drawing scrawled in charcoal. A spiral around it. Names, dozens. Mia stepped closer. Her flashlight flickered. The air thickened. Suddenly, the door slammed shut behind them. Troy lunged, but the handle wouldn't budge. Then came the music. Faint, distant. Carousel music. Playing somewhere in the park. Mia's eyes widened. No one touched it. Troy backed away from the door, attained on by itself. They looked at each other. The ride had started. And someone nor something wanted them to notice. Back at the mirror maze, Donnie froze. One of the reflections smiled, but not them. Not her. Not Jordan. It was a third face behind the glass, smiling wide. Then it vanished. Jordan's camera glitched. The screen turned black, then lit up again. They were no longer alone. The park had awakened. The deeper they went, the more twisted and unnatural the park became. Nina's flashlight flickered again. And this time, it didn't come back on. She slapped it in frustration, but it only gave off a faint pulse before dying completely. Mike handed her his backup torch. It felt heavy in her hand, like the weight of something unseen was pressing down on all of them. "Let's just find the Ferris wheel and get out," Mike whispered. "One picture. That's all." They rounded a corner and came upon an overgrown plaza with a broken fountain in the center. Rust-colored water sat stagnant in the basin. The statues of smiling clowns were chipped and discolored, their hollow eyes staring blankly into the overgrown shrubs. Lena crouched to examine a cluster of child-sized footprints pressed into the dirt. They led into a crumbling funhouse, its entrance gaping like a maw. "These weren't here earlier," she said, standing up quickly. "Nope. No, we're not going in there," Jay said, backing away, but Nina was already filming. "I don't think we have a choice," she said. "Look." A dim, sickly green light flickered to life from inside the funhouse. It pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat. Jay sighed, rubbing his temples. This is how horror movies start. They entered. Inside, the air was colder. The kind of cold that wraps around your spine and whispers things you don't want to hear. The mirrors lining the narrow corridor were cracked, warped. Their reflections looked wrong, too slow to follow their movements, too fast to disappear. Mike's reflection grinned when he wasn't. Nina gasped. "Did you see that?"
Not.
Looking, Jay said, eyes shut tight. Lena stopped. There's someone ahead. They all froze. A child's giggle echoed from deep inside. "Don't run," Nina whispered. "That's how it starts." But Lena was already backing away. "We should go back now." Suddenly, a figure darted past the end of the corridor. A blur of white and red. A child-sized Dotjasi spun around. "There's something behind us too." All their flashlights flickered again. When the light returned, the corridor was different. The mirrors were gone. The walls were concrete. Graffiti scrawled in red letters read, "Turn Ara one day." They turned. The corridor stretched endlessly behind them. The door they entered through was gone. Mike swore under his breath. "We're trapped." "No, no." "This is part of the layout," Nina said, though she didn't sound convinced. Suddenly, music began playing softly, an old carousel tune, slowed and distorted. The lights dimmed again. "I don't like this," Lena whispered, her voice trembling. They followed the music at the end of the corridor. The hallway opened into a large room filled with cracked carnival games. A single carousel sat in the center, still turning, though no one was near it. The horses were broken, their faces twisted into grotesque grins. A little girl stood by the carousel. She wore a tattered dress, her face pale and smeared with grime. Her hair was matted, and in her hand she held a deflated balloon. "Hello?" Nina called, stepping closer. The girl looked up. Her eyes were solid black. The balloon slipped from her hand and floated unnaturally toward the ceiling, where it stuck. Then she smiled. The room began to spin. "Run!" Mike yelled. They bolted through a side door, stumbling into a hallway lit with a flickering emergency light. It buzzed loudly above them. "I thought you said no one was here," Jace shouted. "She wasn't human," Lena said, panting. They ran until they found an exit door, which led them outside only. It wasn't the same plaza. They stood now in front of the Hall of Smiles. A decrepit, clown-themed ride. The smell of rotting wood and wet rust filled the air. Wind howled through the broken ride structure like a scream held for too long. "What if this is part of the curse?" Mike said. "What if it's keeping us inside?" They stood there in silence, each of them too afraid to speak the possibility aloud. Then Lena said something that made Nina's blood run cold. "I think we're being watched." Jace turned around slowly. "We're not alone." In the distance, near the carousel, the little girl stood again, unmoving, staring. Then she raised her hand and waved. They didn't wave back. None of them moved. The little girl by the carousel just stood there, waving, her hands swinging side to side like a broken pendulum. Then, slowly, she lowered her arm and began to walk. No, glide toward them. Mike grabbed Nina's arm. "We need to go, now." They turned and hurried into the Hall of Smiles. The air inside was dense, humid like a closed mouth, and it smelled of old candy and mold. Animatronic clowns lined the walls, most broken, some still twitching. One of them had only half a face, its jaw clicking up and down rhythmically. "This was a ride," Lena said. "There was a cart that went through this." "We'll go on foot," Nina said. "Just don't touch anything." The lights above flickered as they moved deeper inside. They passed a display where clowns were frozen mid-laughter, hands outstretched. But as Nina passed, she could swear one of them turned its head. She didn't stop to confirm it. In the distance, a chime rang out, a tinny jingle of laughter and screams, like a children's birthday party trapped on a loop. And then, footsteps, not theirs, light ones, soft bare feet slapping gently against concrete. "Behind us," Jace whispered. Nina turned. The hallway was empty, but the clown at the end, the one with missing eyes, was now smiling wider. Much wider. "Keep moving," Mike urged. They ducked through a partially collapsed tunnel, crawling over fallen beams and broken wiring. The air turned cooler again, almost damp. Nina's camera lens fogged up slightly, and then they entered a new chamber. It was dark, save for a red neon sign flickering overhead. Fun Zone. Rows of arcade machines lined the walls, their screens static or looping old games, tokens spilled. Across the floor, in the middle, stood a prize booth, its glass shattered. Inside the booth was a mannequin dressed like a park worker. Its head was missing, and someone had written across its chest in what looked like paint or blood, "Stay dead." A claw machine beside it turned on by itself. The claw dropped slowly into the pile of stuffed toys and pulled.
A selfie.
It wasn't a toy. It was a small porcelain doll, dirty, cracked, and identical to the one Nina had seen earlier in the funhouse mirror. The machine dropped it. The doll hit the glass with a soft tap, and its eyes opened. Jace stepped back. "Nope, we are done." The arcade lights burst to life all at once, every game beeping and buzzing and blaring music. The chaos was deafening. Suddenly, a scream. "Lena!" had vanished. "Lena!" Nina shouted. They ran to where she'd stood. Only her phone remained, the flashlight still on, spinning slowly on the floor. "Lena." Mike's voice cracked, and then through the arcade speaker system they heard her voice, but she wasn't screaming. She was laughing, mocking, hollow, like something was using her voice. "Come play with us," it said in her tone, then silence. Nina clutched Mike's hand tightly. "They've taken her." Jace looked around in a panic. "We need to go back. We need to leave. Forget the Ferris wheel. Forget the pictures. This place isn't just haunted. It's alive." They backed out of the arcade, passing the mannequin. Again, this time, it had a head, and it turned as they passed. Outside, the sky had changed. What should have been 3 a.m. now looked like a hazy twilight. Purple clouds swirled unnaturally overhead. The trees that had lined the park entrance were gone. In their place were rusted carnival rides, rearranged like a maze, and standing in the middle of it, backlit by the strange sky, was Lena Dodd or something that looked like her. She stood too straight, her head tilted at an unnatural angle. Her mouth was smiling too wide, and her eyes were all black. "Hey," she said sweetly. "Where did you guys go?" "That's not her." Mike whispered. Lenore, the thing pretending to be her, stepped closer. "You are missing all the fun," she said. Behind her, dozens of shadowy figures were gathering. Children, park workers, clowns, all of them lifeless. All of them watching. "Run," Nina said. They did. They ran until their lungs burned, weaving through rusted rides, collapsing food stalls, and broken ticket booths. But every corner they turned brought them back to the same place, the carousel, and this time it was turning. The black-eyed girl sat on one of the horses, her deflated balloon back in her hand. As they froze in terror, she spoke for the first time. "Welcome back." The carousel lights flared. The music screamed to life, and the ground beneath them cracked open. Nina's scream was swallowed by the wind as the ground gave way beneath them. She felt weightless for a moment. Then everything went black. When she came to, she was lying on something soft. It felt like cotton candy, wet, sticky, and rotting. Her fingers dug into it, and she realized it wasn't cotton candy at all. It was hair. Clumps of it, tangled and matted, spread across the floor of a chamber, dimly lit by hanging bulbs swaying like nooses. "Mike," she whispered. "Jace." No answer. Only the distant sound of carousel music, slowed and distorted, echoing through the chamber she stood, her head pounding, camera still strapped to her chest. The red light was blinking. It had kept recording. She moved through the strange cavern, its walls lined with forgotten costumes, old uniforms from the park. now shredded or soaked in something dark. Puppet strings hung from the ceiling. At the far end, she saw a curtain. Behind it, someone was weeping. "Hello?" She called out gently. The sobbing stopped. She approached the curtain and pulled it aside. A boy, maybe 8 years old, sat on the floor, arms wrapped around his knees. He was pale, wearing an old theme park t-shirt. His eyes were hollow, his lips cracked. "They don't let us leave," he whispered. "They play with us forever." Nina knelt. Who did this to you?" He looked at her with lifeless eyes. "The park feeds on fear. It was closed down because too many of us vanished. But we're still here. We never left." Behind him, a shadow moved fast. Nina stood, backing away. But it was too late. The boy was gone, and standing in his place was something else. A figure, towering. Its face was a blank porcelain mask painted with a permanent smile. Clown-like. It wore a child's amusement park uniform, but its limbs were wrong. Too long, too thin. It pointed at her and whispered in a dozen overlapping voices. "Time for your turn." She turned and ran. Corridors twisted like a nightmare. The layout of the park had changed again. Walls breathed. Doors led to empty sky or spinning rides with no ground beneath them. At one point, she opened a door to find herself standing on the top of the Ferris wheel, looking down at a pit of writhing shadows. She closed it fast. Eventually, she stumbled into a room that looked strangely untouched, a manager's office. There, huddled in the corner, were Mike and Jace. "Thank God." Mike ran to her, hugging her tight. Jace looked shaken, pale, his hands trembling. I heard her voice again. Lena's. It kept saying things only she knew. She's not gone. She's trapped. "We all are," Nina said. "This park kit's not abandoned. It's alive. It's feeding on us." Every scare, every scream, it's like fuel. Mike looked around. "Then how do we stop it?" Before anyone could answer, the radio on the manager's desk crackled. A voice came through, childlike. "Sweet, would our lovely guests please return to the center of the park? It's time for the grand finale." Then static. The three exchanged terrified looks. "The Ferris wheel," Nina whispered. "That's the heart of this place. That's where it wants us." Jace shook his head. "That's suicide." "The only way," Mike said. "Either we face whatever this thing is, or we die running from it." They moved quickly back into the nightmarish park. But this time, it wasn't trying to stop them. In fact, the path cleared for them, rides bowing. Aside, shadows stepping back. The Ferris wheel towered above them now, spinning slowly even though the air was dead still. The seats were filled. Children, dozens of them, all lifeless, all staring in the center of the ride. Tethered by chains made of glowing light was Lena. She was floating limp, her body twisted. Achaia, her mouth sewn shut. And behind her, the figure from earlier, the park. That's what it was. A creature that wore masks and mirrors and nightmares. It spoke with all their voices. "We thank you," it said. "Your fear has kept us alive for so long. But now we want more. We want you." The sky turned red. The rides groaned, and the entire park began to shake. Nina lifted her camera, recording the whole thing. "You feed on fear. Then let me give you a taste." She turned the lens on herself and whispered, "I'm not afraid of you." For a moment, the creature paused. Something rippled through the air, like static being interrupted. Jace caught on. "That's it. Don't give it fear. Don't let it win." They stood together, three humans in a park of nightmares, defiant. But then Lena's eyes opened, and she screamed. Through the stitches in her mouth, the chains exploded. The children in the Ferris wheel began to move, and everything went dark again. By the time I realized the carousel had stopped spinning, I was already halfway into the shadow realm that mirrored the park. There were no children's laughter anymore. No music. Just the scraping sound of rusted metal, the creaking of something. Old and angry, and my name being whispered over and over in the air like a warning. Isaac ... Isaac ... I turned, expecting to see Anna or even Jordan, but instead I saw the little girl. The same one in the Polaroid. The same one who stood at the edge of the roller coaster tracks days ago. She was standing near the funhouse entrance now, one arm outstretched, beckoning. I didn't want to follow her, but something inside me did. My legs moved even when I tried to stop them. My breath caught in my throat as I entered the funhouse. Mirrors everywhere. But they weren't reflections. Not of me. Not anymore. They were moments. In one mirror, I saw Jordan sitting in the bumper car, head slumped. In another, Anna screaming, banging on a glass wall. Another showed the boy with the twisted mask. He wasn't a ghost. He was a memory burned into this place over and over again, doomed to relive what had happened. And then I saw myself. Not me now, but me young, barely 10 years old, holding a balloon, crying. I didn't remember this. Not at first, but it came flooding back. I had been here before. My parents brought me once before the place shut down. It had rained that day, and there was an accident. A boy had gone missing. They said he ran into the woods, but I saw it. He hadn't run. He was taken by the same shadow now crawling behind the mirrors. The entity of the park. The darkness that fed on joy twisted it into horror. The park had chosen me back then. Now it was reclaiming what it had marked. I turned and ran. But the mirrors kept shifting, warping into tunnels, into glass mazes where every reflection was a lie. I crashed through a sidewall and stumbled out into the open. Into the food court. Jordan was there, barely, his face pale. He was mumbling nonsense. They feed it joy, ... They feed it joy, ... Anna's not real. She was never real, ... What? He turned to me. Don't you get it? The girl, ... Anna, ... She was bait. Just like the others. She only appears to those. The park marks. I looked around wildly. Where is she now? He pointed upward, toward the Ferris wheel. And sure enough, there she was. Standing on the very top car, still, smiling, like a doll. Anna. I screamed, running toward the wheel. But Jordan grabbed my arm. She's part of it now. The park owns her, just like it owns me. And soon, ... you. The ground shook again. The Ferris wheel spun on its own faster and faster and faster until the cars began flying off like toy pieces. Anna didn't move. She just faded, pixel by pixel, until there was nothing left. Gone. I fell to my knees, and then a voice in my head. No, deeper than that. In my bones. Trade. I looked up, and in the carousel mirror, I saw myself folder, broken, hollow, still here, still trapped. That was the deal, wasn't it? Give the park something, and it gives you freedom. And suddenly, I knew what I had to do. I turned to Jordan. I'm sorry. What are you? But it was too late. I shoved him back into the carousel. The lights flickered. The horses moved, and the gates opened behind me. The park accepted the trade. I walked out. The air was fresh. Real morning light. Sirens in the distance. People approaching. I was free, but I left part of myself behind. I don't know if it was worth it. I don't know if Jordan is gonna know if he's part of the funhouse now. But every time I close my eyes, I hear the music, and I see the girl with the balloon, waiting for me by the gates. The park never really lets go, even when you leave, because once you've been inside, you're always part of the curse. Thanks for watching. Hoped you liked it. If you watched till the end, please comment "end" so that we could understand you were with us till the end. As well as, please let us know, where are you watching from? Before leaving, please hit the subscribe button, comment your thought, and share with your nearest and dearest one. See you in the next one. Until to the next one, stay happy. Goodbye.